It just makes so much sense that when we experience trauma, we tend to clutch it in and hang on to it. And so if we project backwards to, 4 or 5 generations back, one of our ancestors experienced this and they've held it tightly, well, then they are then passing that on to their offspring or even to their immediate family because of resonance, and then it just keeps getting passed on and then built up on and then passed on and then built up even further. So I'm really glad you went there because it helps to illustrate how these challenges can go back in history much further than we can even imagine. So, how do we address stuff that's been there for so long that it's almost cemented on?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It makes me think of a session that I did with a friend not that long ago, and we got into an area that really did feel like it felt thousands of years old. Like the pattern that was there, I was like, this goes all the way back to Rome. It was so, and it felt so cementy and so ancient and impacted. But even just naming it, feeling it and naming it and saying, wow, this just feels like this incredibly ancient pattern that has come up into awareness in me. And I guess I'm the one who's here to shake it off and change it and rewrite the story. Anybody who becomes aware of anything like that in themselves, and there are certain people that are more like templates who carry big patterns than other people. So if you've been really struggling with a whole bunch of stuff, you may have just volunteered to pick up a heavier cross. And and if that's the case, then that you're mighty enough to shift it. Very often the people who have these very difficult things is many generations of just terrible stuff, alcoholism and abuse and poverty, and have really inherited incredibly compounded difficulties, have within them the ability to heal that and to change that and to find the resources they need to shake out that old pattern and give birth to a new one and make sure that it's different going downstream.
Yeah, I fervently believe that anybody who's listening to this summit has been called to this work specifically. So what you just said makes a lot of sense for those of us who Heather Dane calls generational pattern shifters. So what I'm wondering then, in extension to this, is let's say that both the mother and the father have these similarly cemented, because like attracts like. You don't end up with somebody who's disresonant with your personal vibe. So if both sides have these cemented patterns, which side would you begin working on, or do you just go
Hmm.
with the flow?
Historically, when I was in practice regularly and I was seeing people all day, I generally found myself inclined to start on the left side in most people, but sometimes on the right. I think that it's important that we don't get too fixed into rules. One of the key concepts in biofield tuning is showing up with a client and asking what's going on and what wants to happen right here, right now, in this moment with this person, and to be responsive to that. So, yeah, as a rule of thumb, I might find myself generally starting on the left, but I'm always going to check in. I'm always going to feel into, it's the right that wants to be started today. And I trust that inclination, and I think that everybody has that capacity to have a sense, to just look and feel and ask and then know. And if in doubt, start on the left.
Right. And I'm also reminded of what you said just a few minutes ago. You don't have to make this more complicated. It's fairly simple work. Now, I also want to go back several minutes. We were talking about the music of DNA, and I don't know if there's any connection to this at all, but I'm wondering, if, let's just say, for example, using my specific lineage, in my DNA test, it shows that I'm 50% Scottish. So the fact that when I hear bagpipes, I get goosebumps, and I just feel, I feel so connected to this sound. Is there any connection between locational DNA and the sounds of your ancestors? Say that you're predominantly Greek, and Greek music makes you feel really alive. Is there any connection, or am I just making stuff up?
Well, it would seem logical that there would be, wouldn't there? That it's in your blood, that it's in your that you resonate with that, that your blood throughout time was resonating through that. It's the same blood, and it's the same DNA, and it's informed by those vibrations. There's a familiarity to it. So I don't think you're making it up. I think that it just makes sense that people would have that kind of affinity. Same with food, that we would be drawn towards our ancestral food because it's familiar.
Right,
A
right.
lot of Polish people, love Polish food.
And
Pierogi.
polka music.
Yeah, it's polka music
Yeah,
because the homeland, and it's resonant and familiar.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, this is actually then an interesting sort of side note that I know people who are adopted who have no idea who their ancestors are. They can struggle with ancestral healing. So this might actually be sort of a clue for them. What are the types of music and the types of foods that you really feel attracted to, even if you don't know for a fact that that's your family history. So that would that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me think of how I've worked with people who were adopted and didn't know about their ancestry at all. And by listening into their ancestral rivers, I've been able to provide them with information that I can hear and sense and feel there. So if you are adopted and you want to know more about the information in your DNA, you might want to contact Biofield Tuning. I would say pick one of our teachers because they're the most experienced. But many of our teachers see clients, and they'll be able to tell you certain, information about. I remember this one person in particular where I got very detailed information that I was able to share with them. So, and it resonated for them so much. They were like, "Oh, I just feel that in my bones. Like I know that." So, it's neat.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because let me go ahead and mention your website. It's biofieldtuning.com. And let's talk just a bit. We're almost out of time here, but I want to make sure people understand that they can work remotely. How does that work? If they were to go to your website, how do they find a practitioner? Let's go into that just a bit.
Sure. So at the website, we do have a find a practitioner tab that you can click on, and you'll find we have people all over the world. You might have somebody nearby and be in a place where you could see them in person, but for the most part, at the moment, everything is happening remotely. And we also do training. We created a virtual certification training program in 2020. So the first part of that is online now, and the next part will be online this summer. So people, you can become a fully certified biofield tuning practitioner in the comfort of your own home now. And that never would have happened without COVID. So, and we hope at some point to be starting our in-person classes again too. And there's also a shop where you can purchase tuning forks. We have a home study kit where you can watch instructional videos. You get all the tools that you need to be a practitioner, read the book, watch the video, and that preps you for class or gives you the skills you need to just work on friends and family. And then we have a whole bunch of recorded audio sessions that I've conducted in the past. In fact, I have one on energenetics, and I think it's 9 sessions, 9 hours of me conducting biofield tuning sessions on a group hologram and working very deeply into energetic patterning. And people who've done that series have said that it's been extremely powerful for them. So if you're one of those generational clearers, there's a tool right there for you that will help a lot.
All right. Well, then let's take that a step further because, again, I know this is a question people ask. How can something that you have already recorded a while ago, how can that work on somebody who's listening right now?
Sure. Have you ever listened to a piece of music that was recorded a long time ago and been really moved by it? Does it matter that you weren't there when it was recorded? Sound moves us, whether it's recorded or not. When I create the hologram and I do a group, I put in that hologram every single person who will ever listen to or watch this recording. I put you there. You're there. You're listening to it. You're there. You avail yourself to it. Allow yourself to be moved by it.
Right. I love that. I love the whole space-time continuum thing where that whole thing is just a concept that we've made up and you really are there in the hologram. It's and I've seen it in action, so I can attest to that. Now, before we go, as we mentioned, you have a brand new book. Let's go ahead and talk about that. What's your new book about?
My new book is called Electric Body, Electric Health. And it's about how working in the biofield with tuning forks led me to see that we have an electrical system in its entirety that we don't really talk about, we don't really learn about. We kind of see the parts and pieces that our heart is electrically driven and our brain waves are electric and our blood carries a charge and our bones are crystalline structured that make electricity when they're compressed. So we have a sense of the parts and pieces, but we don't describe the electrical system as a whole. And I've come to see what we call the biofield, which was a term that was created to describe the field around the body, the subtle field, which may or may not exist, as really the body's electrical system in its entirety. Anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it, and you can't separate the two. There's no separating the field around the body from the current that runs through the body. It's all the biofield. That's the part of you that's alive, your electric self. When you're alive, your light is on, you're here, you're hanging out, you're animated. And when you're dead, your body is still here, but that electrical system is not on anymore. That's the most fundamental part of who we are. I would go so far as to say that it's our soul, our electric soul. And the idea, if this is our primary self, if this is the blueprint that organizes our physical body and keeps it alive and sustained, if we keep that system healthy by getting the noise and the resistance out of it, then our physical body just follows suit. And it's much easier to raise your voltage and improve and clarify your signal than it is to do all the other things we've been trying to do. Eat clean, da, 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 da. If your voltage is high enough, you can eat whatever you want. Obviously, we want to eat good food too. That's important. We want to eat food that's alive and full of light, full of electricity, full of juice. And so it's just an introduction into thinking electrically instead of thinking mechanically and chemically. And it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for looking at life from a new way and having new solutions to old problems.
Oh, that's so fascinating. I can't wait to pick up a copy of it. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Looking at the clock here, we're just about out of time. Is there anything that either that we've left out or that is still resting in your brain saying, talk about this before we go?
Well, what's coming to my mind is that I think our approach to health and healing has been sort of mindfulness and yoga and contemplation and talk therapy, sitting down, turning inward. I don't think that's what we need anymore. I think that what we really need is to stand up and to make noise and to beat on drums and to dance around and to shake and to wiggle and to chant and to really move our bodies and use our voices. That so much of this noise in the signal that we've inherited, this internalized pain, we certainly know many of our parents didn't express how they felt, buttoned their lip, internalized a lot, grandparents too. And I think a big part of doing this healing is in this embodied expression of movement and sound. And so, if you're really serious about healing and about helping your descendants and changing the world for the future, I think that we need to get more tribal and primal in the way that we move and use our bodies. And that is part of what will bring us back to our human factory settings of our DNA.